Missouri State Athletic Director Kyle Motes said they are functioning as if they will not have the payment or maybe not even play the game against Oklahoma September 5th. We got to talk about it after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You got to help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Kyle Motes saying to the Springfield News Leader that they are operating as if they will not receive the $600,000 guarantee for playing the opener for the 2020 season with Oklahoma at Owen Field. Now, I need to add in there, Motes says they still want to play that game and they still hope to play that game, but they're acting as if they don't get to play that game. I don't know why that is exactly, except to say perhaps they believe that Oklahoma might ask to pull that game off the schedule because they too, like everybody in college football and across the country, quite honestly, is looking to save some money. And if you can save some money by not paying $600,000 to an opponent that you're probably going to beat up in a year in which you play 11 games instead of 12 games, you're probably going to do that because that game serves as a tune-up for the game that people really want to see, which is Oklahoma, Tennessee. And what we're talking about is advertising revenue, right? Because that game between Oklahoma and Tennessee is going to be on a major cable network, probably Fox, probably FS1, or even ABC, depending on who gets the rights to it. But add in there, the money that comes from putting that game on national television is not a small amount. Meanwhile, Oklahoma might make some money on the pay-per-view buy of September 5th, Missouri State. You get to see Bobby Petrino face Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley, two offensive minds that have a tremendous amount of clout over the last 10 years, right? We all remember what Bobby Petrino had Arkansas looking like in the early 10s, because Houston Nutt was there toward the end. But I add in here that you're looking at Missouri State, whose budget is $16.1 million, right? And they were tasked last March with cutting that by about $750,000, or at least 5%. And right now they're already sending out mailers trying to figure out what their seat licensing is going to be like for their football season. They're going to try to figure out what the licensing of their merchandise is going to be like and what their donations are going to be like, because we all expect those things to really not be anywhere near what they were last year because everybody's being affected by this thing. However, Oklahoma has said it wants to play all of its games. They're working in ways to try to figure out how to do that, and I expect them to try to keep this game on the schedule if at all possible, but I applaud Kyle Motes for acting as if they don't get that money, because if you are able to set aside a budget that can make room for a $600,000 shortfall on top of a $650,000 shortfall that you received because you didn't get to play in the NCAA tournament, then that money feels like a grace, a found situation. And across the country, we're seeing programs cut left and right as we are ending this fiscal year. I mean, Southern Illinois in the Missouri Valley Conference with Missouri State has already cut its men's and women's tennis programs and lessen the amount of scholarships available for the swimming program to 3.9. Across the country, you've seen Bowling Green State decide it's going to cut its baseball program, which is said to save it about $500,000. And this is on top of furloughs that are going to come to the athletic department and some other changes. Akron is also seeing a lot of its programs go up in smoke. We know that the men's soccer team at Cincinnati is gone, and we expect to see and hear more about these things as we approach the July 1 date. And while this sucks, I also would add to you that this sucks in a different way, right? Because it's the things that people want to hold dear about the traditional nature of college athletics are going up in smoke because you're kind of finding out that the non-revenue generating sports are expendable and the revenue generating sports are not, right? So we have always kind of operated with this idea that Title IX is a good thing because Title IX allows for more players and more sports across both genders, right? Also, on top of that, you have to face the fact that you have to fund these athletic programs. And if you cannot fund them and you're having a hard time even funding the ones that make you money, some of them got to go, which means that you will not have the same amount of programs on either side because you got to be in compliance with the federal law, which is Title IX, right? So I'm looking at this and going, all right, what do they owe Bobby Petrino? It turns out not a whole hell of a lot. It's about $250,000, right? That's less than the last guy that was head coach at Missouri State. Dave Steckel was making about $281 when he got him up out the paint. I don't know if he's still getting a payout from Louisville, which is about 14 million, and how that figures into Missouri State's math. But usually the way that this works is the school that fired you is still on the hook for paying you if you take a job that does not necessarily pay you the same amount or is equal to the job you had. So like if Bobby Petrino took another Division I or FBS job, probably would let Louisville off the hook of having to pay him. Kind of like Bob Diaco when he came over as defensive analyst for Oklahoma and analysts across the country, where you saw Chris Ash get fired by, Rutgers, and hired as a defensive analyst on at Texas, and they're still on the hook for having to pay part of his salary because college athletics is stupid. But that's kind of the point here, right? The stupidity around these contracts and the stupidity around the money is going to have to change. It's going to have to come to an end for all of us to get back to good and be able to go back to enjoying these sports that we love. I mean, I've made this point before, but I continue to make it. At 24 years old, right, at 1974, when Barry Switzer was really that dude, right, and not even 24, he was older than that, was really that dude and had Oklahoma humming along, he was making $24,000. That's where the 24 number came from, which in today's money equates about $144,000. Imagine Lincoln Riley getting paid $144,000 to be the head coach at Oklahoma instead of $6.4 million. That's escalating, by the way. Or Tom Herman making $5 million, or Mike Gundy making $5 million, or Philip Montgomery at TU making $2 million. It's getting out of hand, but it's been out of hand for some time, and you'd love to be able to put that money back into the program itself, to say nothing of the athletic directors that are pulling down anywhere between $500,000 and a cool $1 million. To add to that, folks like Sherry Cole making over $1 million. Patty Gasso, who's earned it, still making over $1 million. Lon Kruger's making $3 million. It's getting out of hand, but because there's no cap on how much you can pay a college coach, you can pay them whatever you want. We have women's tennis coaches that are making six figures. They earn that money, but I'm also just going to point it out that, there's a lot of money that's being paid out in salaries, but there's even more money that goes toward trying to outfit and make sure that you get the best games on your schedule. Like Missouri State is having to look at curtailing many of its guaranteed games for people that they were going to play in men's basketball or even in men's football where they could get a win on the schedule, right? So it's trickling down in a way that it's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. And we could see entire athletic programs not just go up in smoke, but also entire universities, right? We've already seen at least one close. Urbana in Ohio, and I'm really scared for the HBCUs, for which football makes some money, but it doesn't make a lot of money. And you're also talking about an alumni base that is not robust and cannot exactly help you along if you come up with a shortfall, like say Missouri State with $750,000 they got to find cut, and probably going to look at $650,000 shortfall just for this year. And that's before you start trying to get back to good next year. And in a conference that is hellacious when we're talking about football, Missouri State's got a long road to climb because they're still in that conference with North Dakota State, among others. So it's not a good look, but it is something to keep an eye on, as Oklahoma and Missouri State might not happen, but I'm still positive about the nature of it happening. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.